We have a lot to cover in today's video, including the latest NHL trade talk around the Toronto Maple Leafs, Vancouver Canucks, and the Colorado Avalanche. We also have news from the NHL waiver wire. We also have several injury updates, and a situation occurred last night with Nathan MacKinnon, an official that's been heavily scrutinized today. We'll discuss all that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here today. Of course, today is a very unique date. It is 2/2/2. It is the February, the second month of the 22nd day of 2022. So today, everything's coming up twos. It's appropriate that today is indeed Tuesday. With news from the waiver wire, Lane Peterson from the Sharks was on waivers yesterday. He, in fact, has cleared, so he can be assigned to their minor league affiliate. No claims have been made, and no new players are on waivers here today. We do have some injury updates for you today, including some pretty important, significant ones. Andrew Ladd of the Coyotes is going to be out of action for about 4 to 6 weeks, so that'll open up a spot for another younger player to gain opportunity. And of course, Dougie Hamilton's finally making his triumphant return to the Devils. He's been out for an extended period of time as well. And of course, we saw a pretty scary situation last night with Maple Leafs defenseman Jake Muzzin. He is going to be out right now. They're calling it indefinitely until they have a better idea on the long-term prognosis here. Obviously, he had a really awkward, kind of weird collision with Habs defenseman Chris Weidman. Is one of those things that was completely fluke. Obviously, Muzzin basically skated right into Weidman. They didn't see each other, didn't have enough time to get out of the way. Just a pure thing. It was not like a hard hit or anything, deliberate. It's just a fluke. But still, Muzzin was pretty shaken up. Looked like he was pretty out of it there for a while. Ended up going off the ice with assistance. He had to stay overnight, I believe, in Montreal. And I believe today he was able to return back to Toronto, where he's now resting. And like I said, he's considered indefinitely on the shelf because they don't know exactly what we're dealing with, but they haven't said a whole lot. All Sheldon Keefe said was that it was a positive day in the way he responded to treatment or test or whatever, so it's hard to say. But if he's dealing with another concussion, that could be a significant, career impact, and it could be something that keeps him on the shelf for a long time. And as we're going to talk about today, there's definitely some more Maple Leaf trade rumors out there, and a lot of this stems from the possibility here that Muzzin could be out longer term, which will create more of a salary cap loophole here, I guess, if you will, to be able to go deeper into LTIR for the Maple Leafs to add additional players ahead of the playoffs. But of course, at that point, you're not really sure you're getting Muzzin back or not, or what the long-term prognosis is, but we'll get into that here momentarily. And of course, Nathan MacKinnon had a situation last night, like Avalanche against the Bruins. Bruins were winning quite handily. It was a linesman doing a face-off at center ice. I believe it was against Bruins center Tomas Nosek. And MacKinnon looked like he was swiped at Nosek to slash him, because I looked like there was some contact or something. He wasn't happy with Nosek, and instead of hitting Nosek, it looks like he missed, and it came down to me. I didn't really see any contact with the official. If you really slow it down from the right angle, to me, it looks like his stick hit the ice right in front of him. There might have been incidental contact. The statement from the league here says that there was some contact, but see, the big thing, and a lot of people are comparing this to a situation that happened a long time ago with Antoine Vermette. He was suspended 10 games. To me, this is a completely different scenario. With Vermette, there was no doubt. It was absolutely clear as day that it was an intentional situation where he hit the official. This is not like that at all. And a lot of the reports here are going to be based on the on-ice officials' reports. It's not that he's getting star treatment or preferential treatment because he's a big name or anything. I've seen all kinds of different takes out there on social media saying, oh, because he's Nathan MacKinnon and he's a star player, he's getting preferential treatment. That is not it in the least. I mean, some people just need to give their heads a shake here with this. To me, as soon as I seen it, without even reacting to all the other comments online about it, it's like, to me, it looked like it was either no contact with the official. If there was, it was pretty minor, and I don't think there was any intent or deliberate action there. So I was going to be surprised if anything came from it. So there is no supplementary discipline. The league did check into it, but like I said, a lot of that is going to be stemmed off the official himself. Like, they all file post-game reports. So certainly if something like that happened, like when it did in the other situation with Antoine Vermette, like immediately the referee blew the whistle and like said, you're out of here. Like, that's That's not what happened. So MacKinnon is not going to be disciplined. I think it's a huge overreaction by a lot of fans out there on social media, trying to claim that because he's a big name, he's not getting, any kind of punishment. And that's not the case at all, in my opinion. A complete situation where he went to hit the Bruin player, and he did, like I said, to me, I don't even think there was contact. If there was, it was incidental. But either way, the NHL sees it the way I do and says that there's nothing more being done about it, and we're all basically going to move on. So there's really nothing more to talk about in that scenario. Now today, as I mentioned, February the 22nd, it's 2/2/2 Tuesday, and we have a 2-year anniversary that impacted the Maple Leafs in a not so pleasant way. So this is the 2-year anniversary when the Maple Leafs lost to his Zamboni driver, the famous EBUG, David Ayres, who came on as the emergency backup goalie playing for the visiting Carolina Hurricanes and went on to help them defeat the Maple Leafs. Of course, David Ayres has had a pretty, a good amount of fame since then. He's made numerous appearances for the Hurricanes, numerous interviews. His entire life has changed, I'm sure, for the better because of that situation. Get to live out one of his dreams, getting in the NHL here. So certainly not a fond memory by many Leafs fans. But given the significance in this moment in hockey history, I just wanted to bring it up and wish everybody involved a happy anniversary. Now, when it comes to the trade chatter here today, we have 3 teams we're looking at. One will be the Avalanche. Now, the Avalanche apparently are linked to Islanders' fourth line forward, member of the identity line, Cal Clutterbuck. Now, Clutterbuck's a pending unrestricted free agent. Wouldn't come at a huge cost for the acquisition. Doesn't have a huge contract, and certainly somebody who's been around the league a long time. Known for somebody who plays hard, can provide some energy, good forechecker, good in a penalty kill. Just a good depth forward, and certainly been a big part of the Islanders' playoff runs the past few years as well. So certainly understandable why the Avalanche might be inclined to want to make that type of addition. Not sure how quickly we're going to see them jump the gun. To me, if they're going to do that, that's probably going to be last minute because they're looking at other items here like a Claude Giroux, who they've been linked to. Certainly if they're looking to add a bigger name and play up higher in the lineup, they're probably going to want to make that addition first to make sure they don't squeeze themselves out of salary cap space. At least that would be my guess on that situation and how it's handled. They seem to be pretty content right now on how they're dealing with their goaltending situation. Darcy Kuemper's played well, so I don't see them making an addition in that regard, although, a while back there was some question marks if they might consider that. But for right now, doesn't look to be the case. But obviously, not only are they looking to make an addition on the upper part of the lineup, but the bottom part of the lineup here as well. And Clutterbuck might be one of those, fly under the radar, low-cost acquisition pieces that end up, paying great dividends. I don't know what the return would be to the Islanders. Probably looking like a mid-round pick. Maybe definitely no better than a second, maybe a third. I'm not sure what that return could be. They may aim for some sort of a prospect or something too. I'm not really sure in that regard, but still something to keep an eye on as we get closer to the deadline. Now, Frank Seravalli is also reporting here on the Canucks. Of course, they do on dailyfaceoff.com. They have a daily live stream show, plus, of course, lots of updates and rumors and articles to read through. Seravalli's covering a lot of the trade talk here extensively lately. Talking again about the Canucks today, indicating how he feels that JT Miller is a lot less likely to get traded than Brock Besser, indicating that he feels that Miller drives a lot more of the offense. Combine that with the fact that the Brock Besser, obviously his qualifying offer at $7.5 million isn't the most favorable. It could be a big ticket item for them to sign him long term. He's not quite so sure that the Canucks are going to want to do that. Now, of course, no guarantees here that Besser's moved either. I don't think they really absolutely have to do that, but we've heard Jim Rutherford mention numerous times that one of their goals here heading to the deadline, especially if they're not going to be a playoff team, and as of today, they're still not, that they need cap flexibility. They cannot be a team that's missing the playoffs and be capped out all at the same time, because you got to be able to make additions through the offseason, through trade and free agency. You got younger players come out of their ELCs that you need to be able to sign, and you just need that wiggle room, and it's tough right now seeing how we haven't had really any kind of cap increases the last few years because of the shutdowns and COVID and everything connected to that. And it's going to be a while before we see any kind of significant increase as well. So certainly Vancouver needs to be careful here. At the same time, you can't just trade away a Brock Besser who could be a solid 30 goal guy for you. They don't exactly grow on trees. So it's going to be a tough call to see what Rutherford's doing. But Seravalli once again is connecting Brock Besser to the New Jersey Devils. So he must have some intel to suggest the interest level is quite high in New Jersey. And I can understand why. If you look at what they have going on with the Devils, adding another top 6 forward of Besser's caliber would make sense. Now, of course, do they want to pay him that qualifying offer? I would assume they'd be okay with it, given the acquisition cost, what it's going to take. But I'm not entirely convinced just yet. We see that the Canucks, I believe, are only 5 points out of a playoff spot. It's going to be tough for them to get in. They're going to have some teams to jump over here, but they've played well and they've found ways to win, even on games where they weren't at their best. So to me, I'm not completely sold that they don't make the playoffs, and I'm going to have to wait a little longer here to see where things are at. But at the same time, if it's trending like they're going to be a playoff team, I don't really see them shedding off anything. I think they'd wait for the offseason, maybe the draft, to pull off some kind of a bigger deal to get some cap space. Otherwise, to me, if they're not going to be a playoff team, I do think that Boeser is a potential candidate, but I also think they have other ways they might be able to go about this. So it's not really a foregone conclusion that he's the ultimate guy to head out of town. Now back to the Maple Leafs. This is the third time we talk about the Leafs in this video, of course, given the fact on the Muzzin injury, the 2-year anniversary on the EBUG situation. And of course, because of that injury, there's talk about potential additional moves with some LTIR space if Jake Muzzin ends up on that long-term injury reserve. Plus, of course, they already do have a little bit of found cap space after losing Ryan Dzingel on waivers here earlier this week. Now, there was already some trade chatter that we mentioned here in the last day or so as well about them possibly trading a defenseman like a Dermott or a Hall and still adding on the blue line. And a couple of names that have been mentioned in Leaf trade talk now is Kraken captain Mark Giordano and Ben Chiarot from the Montreal Canadiens. And two reports, there are some out there, which I believe it was Dave Pagnotta, that's indicating he believes the Flames are also interested in bringing their captain back, which I'm not completely sold on. That acquisition cost might be a little bit too much, but time will tell. I think they're interested in the player. I just don't know on the the trading costs. But when it comes to the Leafs, obviously Giordano and Chiarot would both be good additions, especially on that left side if Muzzin is going to be out long term. Of course, Ben Chiarot's likely going to come cheaper in terms of cap space and possibly on the acquisition cost here as well. Although the only problem here is it seems like before what we were hearing, Kyle Dubas was reluctant to use a first-round pick or top prospect for a rental player. So Ben Chiarot right now would be a rental unless they want to negotiate an extension, and I don't know if they want to get into anything like that quickly. Of course, Giordano, the same thing, also a rental. So I don't know. Now, given the fact that Chiarot makes a lot less than Giordano, I think it would be easier to get him in that sense. I'm not really sure Giordano makes the most sense for Toronto. But obviously, according to Sarah Valley, he says that Montreal and Toronto have had some conversations in the past 2 or 3 days around this player. So, of course, no guarantee that we see a trade, but the fact that they're actually talking and, you know, the linkage there does make some sense. Now, of course, on the forward side of things, as I mentioned yesterday, a couple of forwards to keep your eye on that the Leafs appear to be looking at, which wouldn't have a huge cost, and especially if the team trading retains some salary, between Rickard Rakell in Anaheim and Max Domi in Columbus. Those are a couple of potential players to keep an eye on as well. Of course, Max Domi would be linked to the Leafs. His dad, Ty Domi, was a longtime fan favorite in Toronto. Really, he's really a pretty solid scrapper, one of the greatest ones in that regard, but he could play a bit as well. So I think Domi would be extremely well received in Toronto, given the family history with the organization. I'm sure he would be quite content to play there as well. I'm not sure he has a long-term future in Columbus, so I can certainly see a scenario where all of these players are traded. The Leafs are not going to be getting all of these players, so I don't want to see comments saying, oh yeah, the Leafs are linked to everybody, but they're certainly looking at a variety of players. They have some cap space already. You throw Muzzin on LTIR, you get some of these teams trading to retain some salary, and boom, you've got yourself a couple of extra players added to your roster. It really is possible, doing the math, that they could certainly look to do something like this. So it wouldn't be shocking if they went after like a Chiarot and a Domi or something of that nature. But only time will tell. If the Muzzin injury isn't long term, that will change what they're able to do, and it'll also change what they need to do. So it could certainly have a big impact on everything we're being discussed here today. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.